Okay, to guide our Plenary 3 AI-augmented fight against corruption, we're pleased to introduce our next moderator, Michelle Krystle D. Ong. She's a news anchor of ABS-CBN News Channel. Michelle brings years of business and policy reporting to today's discussion and will help us connect the technical insights to real-world governance questions. Let's welcome Michelle up on stage.
Thank you so much, Robert. So, in 2018, the former World Bank president, Jim Yong Kim, had a conversation in California with an AI researcher, Andrew Nang, and they actually posed this theory that AI, if used correctly, could very well be the trampoline by which developing countries can jump the development ladder rather than climb it. So in the next hour and a half, we're going to connect AI to justice and to the anti-corruption fight. Is it the new frontier in data science, in anti-corruption? It's drawing a lot of attention with huge potential for impact, and we hope to cover a few important points, like its ability to dissect data sets that are too large for manual handling. Can it replace previously corruption-prone processes? And of course, touch on some controversial topics like privacy concerns, surveillance issues, and possibly opaque decision-making processes and other ethical challenges there. So without further ado, we have 3 speakers, and then we're going to open the floor to questions. Our first speaker for this afternoon is Dr. Jacopo Costa, Senior Specialist for Prevention, Research and Innovation at the Basel Institute of Governance. Dr. Jacopo? A round of applause, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for welcoming. And it's a pleasure to be here. And honestly, everyone is telling me that it's a very timely discussion. This is not the first time that it happens, going in a country and having exactly. So what we are going to discuss today is a relation between artificial intelligence and anti-corruption, of course. So first of all, I feel a little bit guilty to have generated this image with ChatGPT after the discussion, and I'm very concerned about the quantity of water that I've consumed now. But this is just to say and visualize that, while trying to apply artificial intelligence to anti-corruption domain, the journey is long. We are just at the very beginning, and the path is rich of obstacles, bottlenecks, but even opportunities. And this is what I will try to discuss with all of you in what I hope is a very fruitful conversation and discussion. So first of all, when discussing the topic, so we can use artificial intelligence applied to the anti-corruption domain for different purposes. We can try to support prevention and enforcement activities, by national and supranational authorities. We can strengthen investigative activities or facilitate the detection of suspicious behavior. But we can also try to improve the transfer of knowledge, skills, know-how, but even, and this is very important, empower civil society organizations, NGOs, in playing their role as watchdog of power. What is the added value of artificial intelligence? We have discussed it, in the other panels today, and the panelists have done an excellent job in clarifying many of the points I'm listing here, digesting and metabolizing large amount of data, automatizing the process of data collection and analysis, reducing time, cost, efforts for anti-corruption activities. Very important, try to identify hidden patterns that are, we as humans are unable to see. So what I'm trying to say that is, what we have done, also what we are doing at the Basel Institute and even in some European project, is try to use artificial intelligence tool in an innovative and creative way, to fight corruption. That is, of course, a very, hard challenge to fight, and we all know that. So, these are main 4 areas that I'm going to cover today. Is a very, bird eye view on what can be done. I hope that we will discuss broadly then. The first is the judicial case analysis, so how we can use artificial intelligence tool to manage case analysis, risk assessment system to early detect risk of corruption along, in different domains, open source intelligence, and last but not least, the training of anti-corruption practitioners. Like there is the human component that is very important, and I will try to spend some word also on that. So first, case analysis. This is something that we are recently developing at the Basel Institute on Governance. We have designed, and currently we are in the implementation stage of a Basel artificial intelligence tool. And the point is that we are trying to understand how to use it for managing judicial cases. So, first of all, what we can do. So, our goal basically is to apply this artificial intelligence in-house, designed and implemented to judicial cases on corruption, money laundering, financial fraud, organized crime. So just to give some background, Basel Institute on Governance is a non-for-profit organization, and we are mainly working on asset recovery. So, going around funds, money that are brought, like someone taking a bribe and moving money to Switzerland, Liechtenstein, or other, like tax haven or offshore jurisdiction. So what we can do, and what we are doing now at the Basel Institute, like, first of all, set up case management and uploading case documents to artificial intelligence tools. So we know that many times this financial, this investigation, follow the money approach, include, thousands of pages of financial documents, wiretapping, and you can name many different types of documents that we are working on. So first of all, we take this bunch of documents, we try to upload them, and then, we try to automatize the analysis of. So basically, asking artificial intelligence to do what, my colleagues did in the past, but faster and in a shorter period of time. So we try to extract information on actions, locations, persons, entities. So all these, relevant actors that we can find in the judicial documents. And then, next is, what we can do with the information that we have extracted. So the point is, for example, going and try to ask to the artificial intelligence tool to complete the information on these relevant, persons, entities, with other information that can be sourced by publicly available information, website, newspaper, and et cetera, et cetera. So this permits us to automatize a process that, in the past required, a long time to be completed, and accelerating, of course, the investigation and the process of document analysis. Lastly, also very important, we can try, we can create a sort of timeline of the investigation, so to understand where we are in terms of really milestones or, deadlines or the main steps of an investigation. Why this is relevant is because it permits us, it's giving a sort of map or where we are and where we can go. And then, of course, we can, systematize the information collected in a way that is easy to navigate, generating reports that can be used for investigative purposes, and et cetera, et cetera. So this is what we are doing. This is just an example of the Basel AI tool. So here we have a fictitious information. So at the moment we are feeding and training the artificial intelligence tool with documents that are taken from our training team that basically are creating fictitious documents and et cetera, so, you know, we can upload the document, and this is, we can collect information, you know, or places, names, dates, and everything. So these are all fictitious information, just to be clear that we are not, you know, like violating privacy or anything else. So some statistic, even other list, and then we can ask to the artificial intelligence tool to complete the information that we have collected with other data and with other key information on, in this case, Alpha Construction is an organization, a building, you know, involved in the building sector, and et cetera, et cetera. So, then, moving to the next is about, I will speak about the risk assessment system and open source intelligence tool. I will speak here about mainly this FICOM project is a Horizon Europe project, is a huge and large consortium made by many organizations. So the idea here is to innovate the fight against corruption, you know, like designing artificial intelligence learning machine solution. One of the most important basically is the development of red flags and risk indicator system for early detecting really risk of corruption in 4 domains: public procurement, circumvention of sanction, corruption at borders, and conflict of interest. So as we can see here, there are very many relevant and important corruption domain, and we know here all that are relevant also, you know, in the current situation, for example, in some cases that are happening in the country, but, you know, like in many different countries, honestly speaking. So here we have, you know, we were speaking this morning about data, how relevant data is, data sets, and here we have, you know, a landscape, you know, an overview of the many data that we can use. Public procurement, sanction list, politically exposed person, you know, news archives, population. So we know out of there are many different data sets and databases, and what we are trying to do in this FICOM project is to put together the sources and then creating a sort of investigative chain by using different tools that include artificial intelligence. So this is just to give you a map, an idea, you know, of what can be done by, you know, extracting information by these data sources and using for, you know, like moving on with the investigation. The idea basically is to support, so this is one of the tools that, you know, the FICOM project is creating, is an advanced risk assessment system that permit basically to support law enforcement authorities, anti-corruption authorities at the national level to basically prioritize investigation, to early detect risk in specific bids, tenders, public contracts, domains, you know, like, and the idea is really to use real-time data, probably in the future. You know, we are working on that to obtain the data from website that exists, for example, the EU tender portals, that is basically listing all the bids, all the tenders that we have to create sort of, you know, green, amber, red system. Then next, what is very important, open source intelligence. So we know, you know, there are out of there many sources of publicly available, you know, data that are just waiting to be harvested, but harvesting them is difficult, it's complicated. Social networks, newspaper articles, sanction lists, judicial documents, tender portals. Why this is relevant? It's relevant because, you know, like, a public official, a politician can sometimes, and sometimes they do, you know, publish on Facebook, you know, a picture, a post, while opening a Dom Perignon bottle. And this happened, you know, like, I'm Italian, and this was an Italian newspaper. That, you know, investigation starting in this way, you know, like, so it's basically a discrepancies between, you know, the salary you have and the lifestyle that you are showing, you know, like driving luxury car, exotic holidays in exotic place. So this is why trying also to go through, this open source is important. Is easy? No, it is not easy because, for example, social networks, like they have this big corporation, they have policies that try to make not so easy, like mining data or the automatized process of mining data and information. So we try to understand the personal relation, lifestyle changes, the participation in suspicious activities and situations. Then moving quickly, to using artificial intelligence for training purposes. This is something that we are doing at the Basel Institute. And for example, one way, so we have a training team going around in place, doing training, organizing training. And one way they are applying artificial intelligence is basically to organize sort of, fictitious interviews. So you are a participant to a training, and you are interfacing now with someone, That is simply an artificial intelligence machine. And this is one way. Another way, sorry, the time is finishing, so I'm going to run, is scenario building. So trying to create an immersive experience where the participant to the training can really try to act, understand how to apply strategies. And we can have artificial intelligence playing the game, being a master, managing, or helping and supporting the management. So I guess there is not so much time. So, this is the risk bottleneck. I want just to speak about this because it's resounding with something. I see three main risks here. There are many others, but I would like to disclose. The first one is very important, like the political charged usage of these tools. So basically, using as a tool for regime consolidation, going towards a dystopian reality. The second problem, bias, hallucination, inconsistency, we have already seen many times. And the third one is, I guess, is relying completely on this tool. We are humans. We have an incredible computational machine that is our brain, and I'm sometimes a little bit scared that we are relying completely and entirely on artificial intelligence. So remembering this lesson, I guess, is very important for what we are doing. So maybe we can speak later about these different points here. Thank you very much, and sorry for going along.
Thank you very much, Dr. Costa. All right. Now, before we proceed to our second speaker, we're actually honored to hear the reflections of Mayor Benjamin Magalong of Baguio City, who shared his insights on this very theme. Unfortunately, Mayor Magalong cannot be with us today because of a prior commitment, but we thank him for graciously sending us this message. Let's watch this.
Magandang araw po. I'm truly honored to be part of this year's 11th Annual Public Policy Conference with the theme, Reimagining Governance in the Age of AI. I ask for your indulgence as I am unable to be with you physically, but allow me to share with you my thoughts and my own personal insights. Corruption thrives in complexity, but technology, especially AI, offers us new tools to look for more solutions. We now see AI-driven integrity analytics, from automated red flagging of anomalous transactions, predictive risk scoring, and advancing pattern recognition in procurement and budgeting. And these are not imagined. They are real and already being tested in many parts of the world. There are claims that AI can alone eliminate corruption. Sadly, it cannot. It is only as strong as the data quality, institutional will, and human integrity that power it. The opportunities are clear. AI can make fraud detection faster, more accurate, and less prone to biases. But there are also challenges: data privacy, algorithmic and digital biases. These risks can be mitigated by strong oversight, clear accountability framework, and continuous human review. For developing countries like the Philippines, the prerequisites include building a robust digital infrastructure, ensuring data interoperability, and capacitating our workforce with digital literacy. And most importantly, strengthening ethical standards. Integrity actors must innovate as fast as corrupt actors, which means investing not just in systems, but in people who can adapt, and outthink corruption. In the Philippine context, policy reforms must focus on greater transparency in procurement and public finance, the creation of AI-ready data governance policies, and stronger collaboration between national and local governments. On the other hand, at the subnational level, cities like Baguio are already moving towards digitization of transactions and e-governance platforms, which reduce human discretion and opportunities for graft. AI will not replace integrity, but it can augment and strengthen our collective fight against corruption. Ultimately, it's still our moral values, our strong sense of accountability and political will that will make a big difference. Values that you and I can help advocate, or better yet, teach our children and the future generations so that come their turn to run our nation, we can say we are in better hands. Maraming salamat po, and I wish you all a fruitful, constructive, and impactful conference. Mabuhay.
Thank you again to the kind mayor. Indeed, as he mentioned, AI alone cannot eliminate corruption. It must be complemented by strong institutions, ethical leadership, and collective action. And now, for our second speaker, to give us her insights on the presentations, our next speaker is a former Ombudsman of the Philippines and Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, celebrated for her integrity. She advanced anti-corruption reforms and was honored with a Ramon Magsaysay Award for her exemplary public service. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Justice Conchita Carpio Morales. Ma'am?
Afternoon to all. I begin with an apology which is against the rules of public speaking. When the first matrix of the program was forwarded to me, I looked at the time frame that I was going to speak. It was 30 to 4. It turns out that it's only 15 minutes. Okay lang, it's better. You know, you'll bore people if you speak more than 15 minutes. The trouble is that my prepared presentation is supposed to be given in 30 minutes, but anyway, just the same. Excuse me. My generation communicated with the use of pencil and pen, telegraph, telephone, typewriter, electric typewriter, and finally the computer. When I was ombudsman, my staff encoded draft memoranda, opinions, resolutions, and decisions in the computer. I'm distracted by that, but just the same, it's okay. They submitted copies of the output, which I would review and edit for the final say. And the final copy, I would write notes on the submitted piece and circle corrections, add my inputs or transport, terms, and paradigms and paragraphs with lines, arrows, and crossed out text. In other words, I was back to using the pen. With smartphones available, however, I would quickly check citations or definition or terms by searching in Google. Little did I know that I was already engaged in an application of artificial intelligence, the growth of which reportedly accelerated in 2017. Of course, the putative intelligence, artificial intelligence then was trying hard, trying to be techie. But actually, there was no intelligence as rampant as now when I was ombudsman. As we all know, artificial intelligence is the simulation of human intelligence processes by machines, especially computer systems, including learning, reasoning, and self-correction. There should therefore be an interlink between AI and human intelligence, to maximize the functionality of both in such activities as fact-finding, case build-up, and case resolution of graft and corruption cases in the Ombudsman. But what is the Ombudsman? At a budget hearing, a congressman once asked me about the etymology of the word ombudsman. I blurted out, Google mo. Well, not that blunt naman. I-Google mo. Kailangan naman may feminine. Okay. In ancient Rome, an extra constitutional authority called the Tribune of the People supervised the proper working of their constitution. During the colonial period, a permanent commission to decide on all criminal cases was brought up. This was supposed to be against department secretaries and provincial and municipal officials. The 1935 Constitution declared the principle that the promotion of social justice to ensure the well-being and economic security of all the people should be the concern of the state. Corruption in government service has always been alive in our country. In 1969, the Office of the Citizens Counselor to conduct fact-finding investigations and recommended action was brought out or passed during the term of President Ferdinand Marcos. Provide constitutional foundation to the fight against corruption. The Constitution provided for the Special Court of Sandigan Bayan and the Office of the Ombudsman, known as Tanod Bayan then. The Sandigan Bayan was vested with jurisdiction over criminal and civil cases, including graft and corrupt practices, and other offenses committed by public officers and employees. The long line of anti-corruption agencies founded in our country during the pre-EDSA revolution period only shows that, like an infectious and ferocious disease, corruption has been festering our country. The people aware of the deleterious effects on our socio-economic and powerful life, which unfortunately even the EDSA could not forestall, established more anti-corruption institutions. The Ombudsman Act of 1969 is the enabling law that provides the Office of the Ombudsman the green light, so to speak, to exercise its constitutional mandate as protector of the people. This provision basically reproduced a provision of the Constitution of 1997. In fine, the powers and functions of the Ombudsman are rooted and circumscribed by the Constitution and the law. In accordance with the Constitution, complaints, grievances, or requests for assistance may be in any form, either verbal or in writing, but is preferably in writing and under oath. What are the legal bases of the complaint, grievance, or request for assistance? We have the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. We have the Act declaring forfeiture of ill-gotten wealth. We have the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for public officials and employees. We have the revised Penal Code. And we have the Government Procurement Reform Act, which is one of the offenses covered by laws against corruption. The evaluation of a complaint could result in either its outright dismissal for want of palpable merit, referral to the respondent for comment, endorsement to the proper government office or agency with jurisdiction over the case, transmittal to the appropriate office or official for fact-finding, and forwarded to the proper office for administrative adjudication or immediate preliminary investigation. A lifestyle check is also a tool against corruption. It could start with an examination of public records of the government official or employee. It could include ocular inspection of the properties, with due regard, of course, to privacy. It may entail examination of the statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth, or SALN. SALN is an indispensable measure in the fight against graft and corruption. Requests for SALNs have been made, several requests for SALNs have been made during the administration of Duterte, during which his successor ombudsman came up with a policy restricting the grant of inspection of SALNs. Of course, SALNs could be denied for these reasons. The office is not the repository of the requested SALN. The request for SALN is not on file or in actual possession of the office. The purpose of the request is contrary to law, morals, or public policy. The request is for commercial purpose other than by news and communications media for dissemination to the general public. The request is prompted by sheer idle curiosity. The identity of the requesting party may appear to be fictitious, and the requester has a derogatory record of having misused any information previously furnished. This would constitute a proper motives. The Office of the Ombudsman therefore made the paradigm shift of policy on access to the SALN from everything as repository of the SALNs of key public officials under the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards. The next ombudsman may even issue a memorandum circular allowing the publication in its website all SALNs filed by public officers as soon as these are filed. I will tell you later that there could be risks attendant to this. No less than Article 1 of the Article 11 of the Constitution provides that public office is a public trust, and all public officials and employees must at all times be accountable to the people, serve them with utmost responsibility, integrity, loyalty, and efficiency, act with patriotism and justice, and lead modest lives. Public servants must stand by the policy of the state to maintain honesty and integrity in the public service, and take positive and effective measures against graft and corruption. They must remember that the state adopts and implements a policy of full disclosure of all transactions involving public interest. On the other hand, people have the right to information on matters of public concern and access to official records, which shall be awarded the citizen subject to such limitations as may be provided by law. Since digital technology experts have not found the means to quick access to the SALN by the people while amply protecting declarants against unscrupulous requesters, we hope that the next ombudsman, as custodian of the SALN and protector of the people, will at least return to the everything is open unless restricted policy. Lifestyle check as a fact-finding investigation method may now be easier with such social platform media platforms as Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and X. Rather than seeing a video of a daughter of a local politician who spent more than 2,000 pesos in one day on a shopping spree abroad, either we keep that in mind unless they delete it sooner. But that is something that can be done even if fact-finding investigation by manually doing it cannot be carried out. Nonetheless, while transformative technologies could help uplift lives and create shared prosperity, there are serious risks in application. An alarming report is that a category of AI creates a new content based on user prompts to create highly convincing content such as images, texts, video, including fake passports, IDs, and even biometric data. In fact, through a type of generative AI deepfake fraud, the face of Senator Bam Aquino was used, of course, an investment scam. In another incident, the Sandigan Bayan called the attention of a lawyer for her erroneous citation in a pleading. The lawyer admitted that she drafted the pleading with the help of AI, thereby prompting the Sandigan Bayan to warn her to fact-check whatever information AI provides. Otherwise, she should be charged with violation of ethical standards before the Supreme Court. Limitations in the functions of AI have also surfaced. AI models excel at solutions for mathematical problems, but still struggle with complex reasoning benchmarks. They often fail to reliably solve logic tests, even when provable correct solutions exist, limiting their effectiveness at high-stakes setting, where precision is ethical and crucial. On the other hand, there are positive results from the use of AI. In India, AI algorithm reportedly analyze historical crime data to predict potential crime hotspots, enabling law enforcement agencies to proactively allocate resources and possibly prevent crimes before they occur. This predictive capability not only aids in crime prevention, but also helps in the effective deployment of limited resources. These conflicting reports on the use of AI may only mean that much is still to be achieved if it were to be utilized in the fight against corruption. What is of importance now is the human factor that interlinks with AI. The Office of the Ombudsman is a catalyst to corruption in the exercise of the constitutional mandate. Respondents in both criminal and administrative cases are only too willing to resort to whatever means they could to get exonerated. Usually, money speaks. Thus, no matter how often they are reminded of the code of conduct and ethical standards, there are bad eggs in any office, including the Office of the Ombudsman. The age of AI is upon us, but its use in the fight against corruption should be based on foolproof, fraud-proof technology. And more importantly, the use of AI should be entrusted to well-trained staff with deep-seated integrity, moral values, and due respect for the rule of law. Otherwise, we will witness a digital form of colonialism where control over data, identity, and culture is once again removed from the communities and placed in the hands of others. The others mean the AI. Hence, extreme caution should be observed in using AI in fighting corruption, a despicable social cancer. After all, only human intelligence can discern nuances or meanings in cold facts provided by artificial intelligence. As Secretary Balikasan said, AI transcends borders. Its benefits and risks are shared. Without international coordination, we risk fragmentation, deepening inequality, and the erosion of public trust. Global cooperation is essential to ensure fairness, protect original work, and preserve the integrity of our digital All right. Please give me an extension. So Secretary Balikasan will not get mad at me for not completing the quotation that I'm crediting to him. Ultimately, building an inclusive A1 future requires a whole of society approach. This means sustained investment, institutional reforms, and genuine collaboration across sectors. The choices we make now will shape whether A1 empowers or excludes, uplifts or divides. We stand at the crossroads. The future remains open. Let us shape it together. End of quote. One paragraph. Indeed, we who belong to this silent generation, do we? Have witnessed only the dawning of the age of AI. The younger generations, from Generation X to Generation Alpha or Beta, who are now amidst the development of that age, should always remember that human beings created the AI. Hence, human beings should control AI and not the other way around. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Justice Morales. Thank you, ma'am. All right, again, thank you to the Justice. Now, to give us her insights, our next speaker is a former UN Under-Secretary General for Internal Oversight Services and a past commissioner of the Commission on Audit. She is widely known for her integrity, work in public finance, and was cited as the first Filipino USG in the UN Secretariat. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Ms. Heidi Mendoza.
Hi, good afternoon. Let's make it a little bit light. Yung ba na mga sinundan mo, very much beloved, highly respected, the face that launched the thousand crooks to jail. Talagang kakabahan ka. Let me prepare muna. Ano po? Una po, gusto ko pong magpasalamat sa nag-invite sa akin, si Dean Randy, at kasalukuyang head ng PIDS. Kaya lang din, pasensya ka na, hindi na po ako sanay mag-lecture. Sanay na po akong magsalita sa kampanya at sa rally. And you know, I wanted to say hi also to all government officials here, and of course to some chitik. You know, Sam, there is a price to pay if the one in the roster mentioned your name. Believe that. And so, kanina daw sabi ni Sam sa kanyang ka-table, did you vote for her? And mind you, I'm not going to ask you, did you vote for me? But rather, let me do a Kamala. I told you so. And therefore, let's proceed with our topic. And this is about reimagining AI in governance. But let me leave you with this message. Corruption is limitless. In fact, it is only limited by the bounds and limits of our own imagination. Di po ba? And before we speak about AI, sorry, hindi ako nandito para i-kill ang inyong mga excitement. Pero gusto ko lang pong idagdag, sana po, in-invite nyo talaga yung chairperson ng Commission on Audit or yung commissioner. Alam nyo kung bakit? Kailangan nyo po ng matinding suporta sa Commission on Audit kung gusto nyong mag-launch ng research at AI machineries and application. Otherwise, puro disallowances po ang aabutin ninyo. Saan ko po ba ipipindutin? Wala po nila sa bundok eh. Paano ko po ba? Ha? Should I put like this? Parang hindi naman po ito. Where should I? Okay. Okay, so, well, this is just something to introduce the topic, of course. And you asked me to talk about the different AI applications in auditing, ano? I tell you, hindi ko po alam yan. Kasi nung nauso yung AI tools sa auditing, lalong-lalo na sa COA, wala na ako. I was no longer with the Commission on Audit. But mind you, I have my own share of using AI in my audit and investigation of the United Nations, specifically in the case that we developed and we filed against the President of the General Assembly of the United Nations. Pwede siguro tayong magyabang ng konti. Tayo po ang nagpakulong. Pilipino po ang nagpakulong sa kaunahang presidente ng General Assembly. Hindi lamang po ito AI. Kasama po dito yung passion at commitment ng isang Pilipino. Yung passion and commitment na nakikita nyo sa ating idolo kay former Ombudswoman and former Justice Conchita Morales. So, what can they do? The common AI and machine learning applications in auditing. We have anomaly detection in transactional data. We have risk assessment profiling. And you know, my dream is as simple as, I've been passionately teaching risk management. And I've been dreaming about the possibility of using a risk-based approach to budgeting so that every time a government agency is asked to present his or her own budget or their budget, it is as simple as showing the risk universe and telling our legislators, these are basically the risks that we are trying to mitigate, and your honors, these are the resources that we need. Unfortunately, risk management in the Philippines is such that it is our own legislators who are the biggest risks. Di ba? Ang saya nyo, tawa kayo ng tawa. O, nga pala, tatakbo ako ha. Joke. Okay, you have document or contract review. But even before we talk about document and contract review, we talk about data governance. Mabuti pa yung members ng UNITEAM nag-uusap kahit nag-away na sila whenever there is a time for politics. Ang data ng gobyerno fragmented, hiwa-hiwalay at hindi nag-uusap. How can you talk about AI when the very basic infrastructure is not there? When you do not even have data governance, and when you have the so-called fragmented data, not to mention, ang damot kaya ng DBM, ang damot kaya ng COA, at ang damot nung nakaraang ombudsman pagdating sa access to information. Paano pa natin pag-uusapan itong AI? When you talk of continuous auditing and monitoring, we tried geotagging. And I was so excited, thank you, to the support of the different development partners such as USAID and World Bank and Australian Embassy. We tried to do citizens participatory audit using geotagging. But the question is as basic as, who's gonna foot the cost of the application? And how do we sustain the development of the technologies? To tell you honestly, in 2001, the new government accounting software was introduced. When I entered Commission on Audit in 2011, we still refer to it as we try to use it as the new government accounting system. And when I ended my term, and even until now, that software is still the new government accounting system. To tell you honestly, that new government accounting system caused a lot of troubles for those who dared and risked introduce the system. Million disallowances lang naman ang inabot nila. And therefore, even before we dream and even before we reimagine AI in governance, let's talk about the reality. We talk about workflow automation. Meron na po naman yan, kaya na namin ipagmalaki. Pero ang basic is, mabuti pa po sa Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, they already have the digitized voucher, digitized accounting. Ay, 2 minutes na lang. Wag maganda itong lecture ko, promise. Kahit na hindi ko kunin yung honorarium ko, patuloyin mo lang ako, pwede. Lang yan, pinagandahan ko ng gusto to, ano? Nakasalalay yung buhay natin dito. Okay. Pero digitized voucher na yung Afghanistan. Ang Pilipinas, wala pa. But you know, this brings me back to that sad story. Way back in 2014, I know Samchitik was still connected with OS8 at that time. And we have all the development partners supporting the creation, the development of the government integrated financial management system. Andyan na yung resources, naandyan na yung loan, naandyan na yung structure. And this, I would say, is the perfect time to launch it. Why? You have Secretary Abad as the Secretary of Budget. You have, of course, former Ombudswoman and former Justice, the Honorable Conchita Morales Carpio. And syempre, yung beauty ng lola mo, kasama si Grace Tan at ang iba pang commissioner sa Commission on Audit. Tingin ko perfect yung collaboration, coordination. Pero nung pipirmahan na, nagdalawang isip si Presidente. At hanggang ngayon, binabangungot ako pag binabalikan ko ito. Tandang-tanda ko ang sabi niya, pwede ko na bang ipasa, iwan ito sa susunod na administrasyon. At ayan, patuloy tayong binangungot. Predictive analytics and forecasting. Bakit nga hindi? Minsan inisip ko rin, you know, as basic as SALN. Every government employee is required to file SALN. After that, ano nangyayari? Do you have an office who is supposed to be the custodian of the SALN? Yes, the HR, right? But do you have someone from the HR who is supposed to monitor, at least man lang, the trends in the increases in assets, if not the increases in net worth? Sayang naman, sana nakita. Meron palang mga taga-DPWH na 4 na ang Lamborghini. At meron palang contractor na may 28 to 40 na imported vehicles. We have the law requiring this information. And we have a high percentage of compliance. Pero compliance for the sake of compliance. Di po ba? What happened, Vela? What happened, Vela? Sa mga SALN na ipinafile nyo sa ating mga HR, wala lang. Pero alam nyo, kung gusto nating magmayabang at gayahin ng ating international expert, kaya nagtatagalog ako, kaya naman sana nating gawan ng trend analysis, di ba? So naman lang nakita natin para naging preventive, di ba? We cannot do it. There's no one. Simply no one. So, gaya na sinabi ko, we can only dream, but we lack the basic infrastructure. Our state of data governance is still lacking. And to be honest, mas fragmented ang data kesa sa mga politiko ng Pilipinas. Ay, bakit ganito? Diyos ko. So, the challenges, data availability. You know, one time I was looking for something to use in my class. I was looking for mga cases, and I was surprised to find out meron palang compilation ng budget issues affecting local government. And you see, if we can come up with a profile of, for example, budgetary issues affecting LGUs and how are these resolved, this could be a big help to all our budget practitioners, to all our budget people, di ba? Kaya lang walang ganun eh. Interpretability and trust. Yung inaanak ni Dean Randy, binola-bola ako. Isinali ako sa kanyang research sa MIT. Nanalo po yung research. Alam niyo po kung bakit? Ang sinasabi lang namin, yung paggamit ng LDI modeling using audit reports. Because I was thinking like, if we try to analyze all audit findings and find out how much is the outstanding cash advances in the government. You know, outstanding cash advances are literally money in the pockets of other people. If not, money waiting for false and fake receipts for liquidations. Wala tayong ganyan, di ba? And even if we had been visited by typhoons and other disasters for several times, we don't have a data in terms of, pero man lang ba tayong data kapag tinanong natin, how much are we spending in disaster management? Ano yung quality spending ng disaster natin? How much are we spending in terms of disaster preparation? And what types of expenditure are actually taking the biggest percentage of this portion of disaster management fund? Pwede natin palalimin. Ano-ano ang profile ng expenditure ng local government? Unfortunately, this simple analysis, wala po tayo. Kaya good luck, mangarap tayo hanggang gusto natin. We also have regulation and standards. When we talk of AI, when we talk of platform, when we talk of systems, when we talk of application, we talk not only about the cost of acquisition, we talk about the cost of improvement, we talk about the cost of updates. Awa ng Diyos, our government is only good in terms of, okay, acquire natin itong system natin. And then, bahala na silang mag-alaga ng sarili nila. We have zero budget for updates. We have zero budget for maintenance. And the ones who own the system, the ones who manage their systems, are being given the responsibility to source out for the revenues or the much needed resources in order to update it. There's only one. We haven't even talked about capacity. When you talk of computers, when you talk of information management systems at the level of local government units, medyo mahirap po ito. Nasaan po yung mga IT na magagaling? Nasa Maynila. O kaya naman, nasa online jobs. Hindi sila magtatakal sa local government. And yet, what we need are basic data. If we are to look at enhancing our revenue collection and improving the quality of spending. Hindi pa ho yun. Papasok pa po ang COA. I-audit pa po yung kontrata. I-evaluate pa po yung costing. At sorry naman, dahil ang mga lola nyo sa COA ay conservative, sigurado ako, maraming madidisallow na expenses hanggang sa sumuko na kayo at sabihin, bahala kayo dyan, saka na tayo mag-AI. And therefore, this is something that I'd like you to reflect on. It is believed that advancement in technology such as AI worsens corruption by making it more sophisticated and harder to detect. But my dear ladies and gentlemen, let us reflect on the DPWH story. Meron po bang complex system? Wala po, di po ba? 4 lang sila. Sabi nung isa, o sige ako na yung head ng back. O sabi nung isa, o sige ako ang manggagawa ng statement of work accomplished. O sige ako ang pipirma ng inspection report. O sige ako ang mag-a-approve at na-perfect ang sistema. Wala pong complicated AI na ginamit para i-fake yung signature. Walang complicated AI na ginamit para ma-fake yung status of work accomplished. At nagsusumigaw ang data information. In 2 days, 48% accomplishment. Diyos ko, Lord, napakagaling ng magtrabaho nito. Hindi po yan kayang i-capture ng AI. Simpleng tanong lang po. At ito po yung ating hinahanap. Yung ating pong social listening. Active na active po tayo sa Facebook. But we fail to listen and to be aware of what is happening. Di po ba? Yung sako-sako, box ng noodle, being brought to the office, and no one is even asking. And here, at this point, let me talk about the responsibility of the banks. You know, the banks, they have the responsibility to file that report, the suspicious report, right? But I tell you, the honesty and commitment of the bank managers are to the owners of the account. Sorry, but only if to dramatize this. Ang biro nga po, nung kausap ko, nung nag-iimbestiga ako ng isang public account related to the AFP. Ang biro po sa akin, Madam Auditor, masyado ko namang malakas ang loob. Paano ka nakakasiguro na makikipagtulungan ang bank manager? Sorry for the term, ay pinagpuputahan nila para makakita, para makuha ang malalaking accounts ng government. The question is, what kind of incentive and rewards should we develop if only to encourage people inside government to do what is right? Unfortunately, the incentives are rewards are not for those who are honest, are not for those who are upright, but they are in the side of those who are corrupt. So much so na ang buzzword o ang hugot is something like, kung magnanakaw ka, lakihan mo. Pag nademanda ka, may pambayad ka sa magaling na abogado. Totoo po yun. At pag na-cancer ka, kasi nakarma ka, may pampagamot ka. At may matitira pa sa iyong mga nepo babies, pambili ng bag at pag-travel sa 24th country. So my own observation is that the many fraud or government fund scam has never been sophisticated. Neither are they hard or difficult to detect. Corruption opportunities thrive in the absence of information and the rise of disinformation. This is the time when audit opinions are being considered as audit rating. And therefore, you have bloggers trying to explain what an audit opinion is. Nakakalungkot, di ba? Pero time is up na daw po. Bahala kayo. So, eto na. So, our public financial management system remains fragmented. Government transactions are still paper-based. Record-keeping has never been systematic. I'd like to pause here, but I will share with you my PowerPoint. The question is, yes, there's no debate in terms of the advantages of using AI in the fight against corruption. But in the Philippines, it is as basic as the culture of silence and the over-compromised oversight system. Maraming salamat po sa inyo. Magandang hapon po.
All right, thank you very much. Miss Heidi Mendoza, ma'am, please stay on stage. We're ready for our panel discussion. And may we call back on stage Dr. Jacopo Costa and Justice Conchita Carpio Morales to join us here. We have until 3:55 for this panel discussion. All right. Ayan, sige. Diyan na lang si ma'am. All right. So we have until 3:55 for this panel discussion. So about mga 20 minutes. So what will happen is I will throw the first two questions, then open the floor to questions from our very excited and engaged audience members. All right. So I want to start with my first question for Ms. Heidi, Justice Morales, and Dr. Jacopo. At your peak in your career, how much data were you actually crunching? If you could quantify it in pages, because we always think about AI, as a large language model. It's supposed to help us go over vast amounts of data and text. So just to help us imagine that you're in your line of work, how much reading did you have to do per day let's quantify it per day. And maybe we can finally imagine how AI and LLM can actually help. So we start with Heidi and then Dr. Costa and then Justice. Ma'am Heidi.
Hi, good afternoon. I hope you can see the number of socks outside the offices of the Commission on Audit and under the tables. This gives you an idea of how much data do we need to examine. On the other hand, as I have said, when I was still with the Commission on Audit, that was the first time that I thought of convening a data summit so that at least we will be able to identify what are the types of data that are available in the government, and at least we can make use of them, try to analyze them, and make this data at least relate or connect with other data in government. Salamat po.
Before we go to Dr. Costa, Ma'am Heidi, you mentioned sacks of data you have to crunch. In one day, would you say you do one sack?
It's like signing several documents while I traveled to Manila. Then I reached Tagaytay, and then I went back to Manila, and I'm still signing those documents. So that gives you an idea, given the traffic of traveling within Metro Manila.
All right, Dr. Costa, how about you?
So, just to make clear, so I was speaking before about these investigative documents, for example. Some of them can be made by thousands of pages, for example, financial transaction. So we have, investigators going through manually, page by page, okay? So this is in terms of, just to go through maybe just a single bank account. We are speaking about 1,000 pages. We have databases with data on companies are made by 100,000 of lines of information on companies all over the world. And this is just to stay on two fields. But, it means I'm not working with this data every day, because
All
this
right.
is impossible, okay?
And Justice, what about you? How many pages would you read in a day?
I cannot with certainty tell the amount I went through, but I started in the office at 6 o'clock in the morning and left after 5, because if I would leave before 5, then when the cat is away, the mouse would play. So that's it. I had a lot of work, and that's the reason why even on Saturdays I reported for work.
Oh, wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. And this is data that's available. So here's my question, because AI works well inside a system where the data is available. But we know that corruption happens before the data becomes part of official paper. For example, when you go through bidding, and this is a real example from someone who attended a bidding for a project several years ago. Even before they submit their pre-bid documents, they're already talking amongst themselves. For example, there are the 5 usual bidders. So all 5, and then there's a new entrant. So all of them will agree, okay, let me win this round, and then I'll farm out the jobs to you. Track 1. Track 2, let me win this round, the next round goes to you. Track 3, okay, you're a new entrant, we'll give you a percent, just wag ka na makigulo. But these are things and conversations, collusions that you don't see in paperwork, that don't have paper trail. So how will you fight corruption with AI if it's not yet officially in the system? Is there a way to empower the system or the good actors to be able to catch these things or to prevent it?
I'd like to disagree. Actually, there are some I would say, red flags. Like, for example, if we would like to prove that the public bidding was simulated, we will analyze the checks. At the back of the checks, we can find single accounts where checks coming from different contractors are being deposited. So more or less, you can have this conclusion that they are owned by one and single proprietor or something, right? You can find several data or red flags in terms of your confirmation. When you go outside and talk to the staff and office members of the suppliers, right? You can research, you can use the internet. So I would say they are available. The problem is there are instances when people in government, when auditors, for instance, choose not to look at them. And that is the other problem.
Can AI help with that problem?
I think AI can help in terms of managing the volume of the documents and processing the data, such as developing risk models or developing fraud theory, fraud models like that. But I think the only question remaining is the quality of data that you're going to use and input in this AI machine or AI system.
Justice Morales, what about you in your own experience, ma'am?
There was no data at the time I was in office. So I cannot conjure any situation where data would speed up the work while it is in its primacy stage. In other words, we need expert technicians to teach us how to gather data, how to gather statistics by availing of the services of an expert technician.
Ma'am, do you think legally it would be hard? For example, you mentioned earlier social media platforms. Because in India, I think it was in 2017, there was a project Insight where the government actually cross-checked tax income records plus social media flashings of government officials. When they cross-checked and it did not make sense. This person is only making this much money, but on social media was flashing this much of an extravagant lifestyle. So they had something like that. They used social media postings from Facebook, from Instagram. Do you think that's something that we can work on here in the Philippines, or legally it would be hard?
Well,
Because of privacy issues.
certainly, we can make use of the data given by social media platforms like Facebook, X, TikTok, but they need validation. We just must have to take them, as is. We have to violate them. Although it would be easier to go through the work if there is already information given by the Facebook, but whether or not the information given by Facebook users or X users or TikTok users are correct or accurate or true is a different story.
But will there be privacy issues? Can I say, you're not allowed to use what I posted on Instagram?
Yes, of course. But as I cited an example a while ago, you can go to check the property of persons you are investigating.
In terms of records?
Yes.
The ones on
That's
the
public
official
records, yes.
All right. What
And
about
that's the reason why I hope there's a law where government officials and employees will waive their right to privacy with respect to their bank accounts.
bank secrecy to waive?
Yes, and these SEC people, BIR people, and customs people should not be afraid to furnish records for violation if there is a law. That's why I am proposing the drafting of a bill to that effect.
All right. All right, we're going to talk about that more later. But Dr. Costa, what about you? Best practices in other countries using AI to fight corruption?
So, the point is, as I told at the beginning of my presentation, is, a long journey. We are just at the start. So what we have seen with this European project, really, we are designing now the tools that we should implement. So, we are really at an early stage. So everything that we are discussing now, bank account, bank secrecy, using and mining information from social network, and how big corporations, are implementing policy to avoid, the automatized mining of this. So, there is an issue here. There is an issue by finding a balance between, privacy protection, personal data protection, and the capacity to implement. So we have many challenges in front of us that have to be solved somehow. And this is a matter, a regulatory matter in charge of states, supranational institutions, that is European Union, ASEAN, or what else. So, best practices. We are discovering now where we are and where we are going. So, it's really a new field. a new domain we are working on, and like the best practices, of course, there are. We can discuss them, and etc., etc. But
Still in the infancy
it's
stage.
a work in progress, yes.
Justice Carpio Morales, you're pushing for a law that will require all public officials to waive their bank secrecy. Are you confident? I mean, the very people who will pass that law are the same people who need to protect themselves. Or do you feel because the outrage is so strong today, it's now or never?
That could serve as a deterrent against accumulation of illegal wealth. Of course, it's harakiri. It's a suicide on their part, just like dynasty, it's harakiri for them to craft an anti-dynasty law. What we should do is to amend the Constitution, remove that colatilia which says that subject to the passage of a enabling law. Without that line, a lot of dynasts, they violate the anti-dynasty.
All right, ma'am. I think we're now ready to take questions from the floor. Yes, sir. Please state your name and maybe direct your question. All right.
I'm previously the Dean of the UP
Hi,
Brata
sir.
School of Business, Joel Tan Torres. Hi, Heidi. Okay. I agree with, I think, what most of the panelists mentioned, that data should complement any AI tool, quality data. Okay, this is my proposition, and I'd like the panelists to probably comment on this. Freedom of information. With such a law in place, Philippines still does not have the FOI law. It's a mere administrative measure that we have a slight semblance of FOI. But if we have an FOI law which is effectively crafted, that will produce quality data sharing between government agencies, which I agree. Right now, they're separate silos, not sharing, but with such a law compelling data sharing, government to government, agency to agency, government to private, and the creation of a Department of Data and Information that will manage, restructure the data ecosystem to have, again, data smoothly flowing from the different data holders. That can be the start of really having a good ecosystem and environment for data and analytics and all the important, say, functions that would result from that. Plus, dagdag na rin. I mean, nagdi-dream na tayo na pwede a law that will provide yung confidential information or yung window, yung whistleblower. No? Providing an effective whistleblower, say, law that will encourage, protect, submission of information from the public. Please comment on these suggestions.
Go ahead.
Hi, Dean Joel. Good afternoon. Well, of course, kaya sumama po kayo lahat sa rally sa September 21. Baka sakaling makatsempo po tayo. We need to demand the freedom of information, right? And there's another one, we need to look at the increasing percentage of non-compliance. You know, before we even think of financial statement analysis, we have to be aware of the increasing number of local government units who are not submitting their financial statements. Alam niyo po yung implication nito? Hindi sila nagsasubmit ng FS nila. Hindi nakakarating ng COA. Di ho ba?
What's the rate of non-compliance, Ms. Heidi?
I cannot say, ano? Pero I was alarmed. Kasi dati, walang hindi pwedeng hindi mag-submit. Guguluhin namin yung regional director kapag hindi nakapag-submit yung entity niya ng financial statement. And right now, I was informed, many LGUs in the north are no longer submitting financial statements. The Commission on Audit has really to exert pressure and effort.
So is COA failing us?
No, not really, not really. What we're saying is there is this increasing culture of non-compliance. And whenever there is an increasing culture of non-compliance, we can bet that there is an increasing fraud events or fraud transactions, fraudulent transactions.
So where does the buck stop?
Well, of course, we need to improve on the compliance, meaning to say the Commission on Audit has to have more teeth in terms of implementing the laws, rules, and regulation, and securing compliance with financial, not only financial, with laws, rules, and regulations. But there is another thing, and you know, dapat yung lahat ng tumatakbo bago magtakbo, hihinga natin ng compliance with notice of disallowances. You know, I was informed there are many local governments, officials, I would say, who have very huge amount of disallowances. And what they will do before they file, they will settle a portion of it. Say 10% ang babayaran. Mananalo sila, di ba? And then mag-i-incur na naman sila, magdadagdag na naman sila ng disallowances. So it's technically money of the people, di ba? Na hinilalagay lang nila sa bulsa at kung gusto nilang isole, di ba? So the overall ano talaga is let's try to look at our control environment. And when we talk of control environment, let's revisit our values. And therefore, see you on Sunday.
Of course, today, kung question kanina, we were monitoring the Senate hearing. They were now questioning the quality of the auditors. Kasi nga, di ba, yung mga sa ini-investigate niyan, ghost project, but the auditors signed off as if there was a physical structure. So even that. All right, we have time for one more question. All right, yes, sir.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Derek Adil. I'm from Globe Telecom. I'm handling AI and privacy governance. So probably, thank you, Ms. Heidi, for highlighting the importance of data earlier. I'm a data practitioner for more than a decade already, and there's really value into getting insights from those data. But basically, my question would be to Justice and to Ma'am Heidi, from your time from your experience in public service and with what's happening today, what's that one thing that we can start doing now or probably by tomorrow, aside from joining the March, the 21? What's that one thing that we can start doing today or by tomorrow, because policy will take time, right? Just for us to be able to really leverage the potential of data and AI to fight against corruption.
Okay, I have a suggestion. Pinag-isipan ko po ito. Bakit ba ako nang aagaw ng mic? Auditor talaga ako, ano? Mahilig ako mang-agaw. Ganyan po ang mga auditor. Joke. Okay. I'd like to call on citizens' participation on critical phases of the budget execution. For example, if we have charge-based organizations sitting in as observers of public bidding, and we have representative of professional organizations such as the United Architect Associations of the Philippines looking at the design of flood control, di ba? We have Philippine Institute of Civil Engineers asking their civil engineers to actively participate in coming up with what is an ideal estimate of a cost for a standard flood control. And this will be vetted also by the architect, right? And the Philippine Institute of Certified Public Accountant looking at the documents, analysis, compliance with laws, rules, and regulation. Basically, we will be reducing, and I would say, if not eliminating, the possibility of ghost project. Bakit? Pipirmahan eh. You have engineers who will be there in the inspection, and they are not government employee. Now, if you ask me, saan po kukuha ng pamasahe itong mga ito? Ito po yung tinatawag kong oversight cost. I-include natin sa project as an additional project cost. Sabihin natin 10%. Anyway, 50% overprice yung project. 30% lang ang napupunta sa project. What is 10% of additional project cost if we are going to use it as an oversight cost? Tatanungin nyo kami, ay bakit naman binibigyan nyo kami ng trabaho? Kasi po, pare-parehas tayong nawawalan. Uulitin ko po, kung yung lahat ng businessman will be happy, if all the businessmen who are concerned with what is happening in our country will be happy and willing to support a website monitoring prices of construction items or units of what do you call this one? Construction items, ano? Dati ho, meron kami tinatawag na price monitoring bulletin. Magkano ang presyo ng simento sa Region 1? Magkano ang presyo sa Region 2? Kayang-kaya ho yung gawin ng ating mga business, ng iba't ibang companies. And then kaya hong i-review yung tinatawag nating design. At kaya ding mag-participate sa inspection. Sa tingin ko ho, first time nating magagawa. We have to look at prevention because there is not much hope in prosecution. Cases are being filed and they stay there and they remain there. Baka ho wala na yung interest, iba na rin ho ang Pangulo, hindi pa natin napaparusahan ang lahat ng nagnakaw sa pera ng bayan.
Miss Heidi, just to follow up, when you said to bring professionals in na pipirma, hindi ba yan ang trabaho ni PCAB?
Government yun eh. At di ba, meron din silang contractor.
Sa bagay.
Di ba, contractor din sila? Kaya basically, nakita natin, yung oversight system co-opted eh, di ba? So we infuse meaningful citizens' participation. And mind you, the approach has already been institutionalized in a COA memorandum, in a so-called participatory audit. Hindi ho sila magdi-disallow ha. Wala hong powers ang citizen mag-disallow. Pero kaya nilang mag-measure. And if you ask me, magagawa ba ito? Nagawa po ito during the time ng Yolanda. Yung pong mga nawala ng bahay, sila po yung mismong pinagsukat namin nung mga bubong, nung mga dingding. Sila po yung nag-inspect at sila yung nag-determine ng quality ng materials na ginamit. And you know, ang sabi po nila, kung kami yung makikinabang dito sa mga bahay, bakit hindi namin pagbubutihin ang pagbabantay? O kaya nga ho, kung merong inday-lustay, dapat maraming inday-bantay.
All right. And Justice, ma'am?
In the first place, we would not be talking about all this if the people manning our country are honest, responsible, courageous, and they follow accountability. You see, the office of the, the SALN has a portion where it says, I waive my right to all right, I give authority to the Ombudsman to inquire from government offices in connection with the investigation of the charges against me. And that's what happened in the case of Chief Justice Corona. If not for that line in the statement of assets and liabilities, I would not have been able to gather the bank transactions of Corona from the Anti-Money Laundering Council. So you see, we have the law. We have, of course, some laws need improvement. But if you only come up with an honest, courageous, very responsible official, if they only vet properly the appointees, officials they are going to appoint, so that only those who are deserving, in other words, those who are honest, more importantly, one with integrity should only be appointed. But look around. You can see, oh my God, corrupt, linagay mo dyan? Of course, that's a green field, that's a fertile field for that corrupt to be there. There have been, mabuti na lang there are not, there have been some government officials who are corrupt and yet merited appointments to juicy positions, like employees in BIR, customs, immigration. Why do you think they want to go there? because they want to steal or to cheat. So, when someone wants to be employed there, you can see the motivation. Unless, of course, there are fuera de los buenos. There are some people who want put order in that office, and yet is overwhelmed by the work of these people who are very corrupt and all that. So our system is good, but let's come up with honest officials, because it's always leadership by example.
All right, we have to wrap up now. One final question just to close this conversation. So last week, the country of Albania actually introduced a new cabinet minister who is an AI-created cabinet minister who was tasked to make sure the country becomes corruption-free. She was supposed to begin with monitoring bidding procedures. That was her first task. Her name is Diela. Diela like the sun, to shine light on these things within government. So my question to all of you here, if the Philippines were to have a cabinet minister, maybe an AI cabinet minister, who will help fight corruption, what would the name be, and would she be a woman? What do you think? Should we call that minister, that new minister, and whether you think that minister should be a woman?
Okay, papangalanan ko siyang Inday Bantay. Kaya lang, matatakot ako, baka pag sa Pilipinas, pati yung AI makorap. But one thing is clear that I'd like to emphasize, and that is, if we compare anti-corruption then and anti-corruption now, there is one thing that is a bit missing, and that is, today, we have a strong fight against disinformation. You know, fighting corruption side by side with fighting disinformation is really taxing. And I'd like to quote on the words of Yusek Di Malanta. While it is highly inciting to give up on accountability, please let us remind ourselves, habang nakikita niyo si ma'am at habang iniisip niyong umattend sa linggo, do not give up on accountability. Maraming salamat.
Inday Bantay. Dr. Costa?
Honestly, I have no answer to your question. You know, I know the country, I know a
Will
little
she
bit
be a woman?
Albania, and maybe they have more
Will it be a she or a he?
urgent problem than creating a, artificial
All right.
intelligence ministry. And
All right,
yes, it
fair
is.
enough.
Yes.
Justice.
Let me answer that with I don't know if it's actual fact, but it could also be a joke. Okay, there were 3 gentlemen who went fishing. I think some people don't know about it already. So they were able to catch Sirena,
A mermaid.
a mermaid. So because the mermaid could not get out of the net, she asked, babae to, she asked the 3 gentlemen, ask anything you wish, I'll give it, so you'll set me free. So fisherman number 1 said, I want to be doubly intelligent. Lo and behold, she asked some questions from this gentleman, fisherman 1, and he was able to answer. So tama nga naman, di ba? Then the next one, what is it that you want to be or you want me to do? Asked the mermaid. And the second man said, I want to be intelligent, I want to be a math wizard. So again, the mermaid said, okay, I'll do it. And she asked them, and he was able to answer. How about you? Third gentleman, said the mermaid. What do you like? And then she said, the gentleman said, I want to be as intelligent as Einstein 5 times over. So, are you sure you want to be as intelligent as 5 times over Einstein? And he said, yes, I want to outlive, I want to outdo these 2 others. So, the gentleman, the mermaid rather, tal na ako. The mermaid turned the third man into a woman. My answer,
A woman.
man or a man who will
I ask the gender because it connects back to justice. It's Lady Justice in a blindfold. Now the question we throw to you, are you ready for a world where behind Lady Justice is a cold, calculating, literally, heartless AI? Walang kaibigan, walang pakiusap. Are you ready at walang takot? Are you ready for that world? A quick show of hands. For those who are ready for that world, raise your hands. All right, I think we're all ready. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause, please, for our panelists, Ms. Heidi Mendoza, Dr. Costa, and of course, Justice Carpio Morales. Maraming salamat po. All right. Thank you very much. For our panel members, for today's rich discussion, a big round of applause again, please. For our panelists, thank you. So we've heard how AI can be a valuable tool in strengthening integrity systems and enhancing transparency, but only if we put in place clear safeguards to prevent misuse. The message is clear. Technology alone cannot fight corruption. Policies, institutions, and accountability must lead the way. And as we move forward, let us carry this insight into our next discussion on another pressing issue: how AI intersects with the realities of aging societies. Now, to guide us through Plenary 4, Governing Aging Societies in an Intelligent Era, we are joined by our moderator, kilala bilang ang profesor ng bayan, Dr. Ricky Rosales, news anchor at TZMM Radyo Patrol 630 and professor at the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. Dr. Rosales brings a unique perspective as both a journalist and an educator, making him the perfect moderator for this important discussion. Dr. Ricky Rosales, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mimi. Fantastic. And this is the moment where I ask everyone if your brain cells are still working. Unless, of course, if your brain cells are AI powered, then you could feel the same feeling that I have. Because since early morning, I was sitting there with Dr. Navarro, and there has been a lot of insights, no? And meaningful conversations na I think everyone's benefiting. And this next session is the last, no? And thank you for staying with us. This is Governing Aging Societies in an Intelligent Era, and this also promises a lot of insightful discussions and, you know, meaningful engagement. So we'll start early. You know, population aging poses major challenges for healthcare, pensions, and social services, and AI now is being tested worldwide. To support older population, but you know, it raises a lot of issues about access and equality. So our last plenary, an interesting plenary, explores how policies can ensure AI helps, no, in aging societies instead of marginalizing them. So I think this will be very, very interesting for all of us. So let's start. Our first speaker for this final plenary session is a professor of demography at the University of the Philippines. She leads the landmark longitudinal study of aging and healthcare in the Philippines and has published widely on aging, health, and demographic change. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Grace Cruz.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Thank you for staying. So this is my presentation. The title is Towards an Inclusive, Tech-Based